Since 1948, millions of people have relied on the UK state pension. So what will happen if that system breaks? Well, I've been working as a financial planner for the past 15 years or so, and I've noticed the cracks are getting bigger. Resisting any temptation for a bad joke about cracks. If you are reliant on the state pension, this probably means your retirement plan has cracks too. Stay strong, Tom. So in this video, I'll break down the big misconception people have about the state pension, why it's failing, and what you can do to save your retirement plans. In order to understand exactly why the state pension is failing, we need to understand how it works, because most people get this wrong. So to bring this to life, meet Barry Bloggs, Joe Bloggs' cousin. He's from the UK, he's 66, he earns the average UK salary of $35,000 a year, and over the past 30 odd years, he has saved up the average amount in his pension, $127,000. He owns his own home, so he has no mortgage or rent payments, and he estimates that with around 65% of his salary, he should be okay. In other words, he needs to bring in £23,000 a year in retirement. So he is officially entitled to his state pension, which should in theory work out at roughly £200 per week. Now, Barry doesn't have a lavish lifestyle. He loves a takeaway, likes the odd weekend away, and has a real penchant for the pub. So typically, by the end of each month, he has spent all of his salary and doesn't have that much left over. However, if we run his finances through a retirement calculator, you will quickly spot a problem. Barry isn't going to bring in £23,000 a year in retirement, far from it. In fact, if Barry lived until he was 100, which is what these calculators are based off, even if he worked until 90, he wouldn't hit his goal of £23,000 a year. So what does this mean? Well, the reason Barry finds himself in this position is due to the big misconception around the state pension. And to understand this, we need to understand how it all started. However, just before we get into that, if you're worried about your own retirement, you can apply to receive one of 5 free calls I offer to subscribers every month, and we can run through the numbers together. Link in the description. So, the state pension was created in 1948 when a few things were different. The population of the UK was around 43 million. Retirement age for men was slightly younger at 65 and 60 for women, but average life expectancy was only 66. Fast forward to 2025, and there are roughly 69 million of us here now in the UK. Average life expectancy is now around 82, and if Brian Johnson and the health nuts have it their way, this is only going to increase. So back in 1948, the system was created for a country with 26 million less people, who in theory were only going to live a few more years past their retirement, whereas now it's at least 10, if not 20 years and longer people draw a state pension for. Plus, there were around 6 workers for every pensioner. That ratio is now halved to 3. So every year the state pension system is being stretched by more retirees who live longer, and in response to this, the government keeps raising the retirement age. It's set to increase to 67 by 2028, and there's already talk of pushing it to 68 or higher by 2044. But in my opinion, these are just surface level facts, and the real issue goes a lot deeper. The original concept of a state pension was actually created much earlier, in 1909, but it wasn't available to everyone. It was available to the poorest members of society who could prove they had good character, whatever the hell that means. Anyway, the pension evolved over time to include everyone, which on the surface is great, but here's the thing. The state pension was never intended to fully subsidise Barry's retirement or pay for your luxury retirement plans. It was built to support those in need and ensure your basic needs are met. And this is the big misconception about the state pension and why the system is really truly broken. It's true to say that £200 a week isn't enough, but it was never meant to be enough to support a decent retirement for most people here in the UK, particularly if you need to still pay rent. But we grew up in a time where the state pension was always there, and way too many people rely on it as their main source of retirement income. But who knows what the government is going to do? What if they decide to make the pension means tested? What if they increase the retirement age to 75 or get rid of it altogether? Which, considering the stress the system is under, none of those would surprise me at all given enough time. In other words, do you really want to leave the face of your retirement in an outdated, overstressed system that you have no control over? Well, If the answer is no, which I hope it is, let's take a look at some things you can do. Firstly, let's imagine Barry was 36 instead of 66. He has saved £27,500 in his pension, which again is the median amount for that age. And then we run these calculations again. We can already see the issue Barry is going to run into 30 years down the line is going to be about £4,000 off his target per year. And based on everything we have talked about, this situation could get considerably worse if that state pension disappears. However, there is one thing that anyone watching this video can do that will have a bigger impact than you think. This may or may not feel like a lot of extra money to put towards your pension each month, depending on your circumstances, but if you're able to decrease your personal monthly spending and increase your monthly contributions by £175 a month, it will make a huge difference to the figures. The change might not feel too brutal on a day-to-day basis, but you could be £333 a month better off in retirement. And for Barry, that would be the difference between off or on target. Or let's look at an alternative scenario, which is potentially even easier for some people. In this case, all you need to do is up your contributions by £49 a month to hit your retirement goal. However, you need to make this change at 25, not 36. I appreciate not everyone watching has that luxury, but it goes to show that the earlier you make these changes, the smaller the changes need to be. Because the beauty of investing is time. The longer you leave your assets in the same place, the more they are going to compound and the more valuable they will become, if you manage them properly. But some people manage to get this very wrong. So let's go back to Barry. It's his 66th birthday and he decides he is done with working. He quits his job, cleans his golf clubs and gets ready to enjoy his retirement. But then his first month's retirement cheque hits his bank account and his jaw hits the floor. It's 350 quid less than what he was expecting. Why? Well, similar to lots of people around the UK, Barry had a few gaps in his employment history. He was self-employed for a short while and he lived abroad for 5 years. All of which has an impact on your entitlement to the state pension, because you need to have at least 10 years of national insurance contributions to qualify for anything at all, and 35 years to get the full amount. So my advice would be to check your records sooner rather than later. Once you check, you'll know if you have any gaps and might be able to take actions to fill them, like making voluntary NI contributions to cover missing years. You can do it online in just a couple of minutes by going to the government site. I'll be putting a link in the description box below. However, the best way to make sure your pension is safe is to understand exactly how your retirement income might work and to start as young as possible. That way you know what you need to do in order to receive the most benefit possible and stay on track with your retirement goals. So check out this video next where I explain everything you need to know about the state pension and how it actually works. Jesus, look at that hairdo.